like to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Sustainability Advisory Board on Monday, February 3rd. Call the meeting to order and see that we do have quorum, which is wonderful. I'm guessing there's no public comment tonight. So we will move on to approval of minutes from the January 6th meeting. Those were available on our website, and we do have a paper copy here should we need it. I would take a motion to approve as written.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay, then those of us who were at that meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And anyone opposed? No, okay, we got our minutes. Great, now we can move on to the fun part of the night. We do have a guest speaker tonight. It's Kevin Kane. He's with Citizen Action Wisconsin, and I had the pleasure of meeting him several years ago. He's worn many hats in his young life, and all of them have been very good for our world. So, like us, he's just trying to save the world one piece at a time. And he does have a very nice presentation for us tonight on, well, why don't you go ahead and tell us about it? And if you'd like to sit at the table, if you'd like to go up there, wherever, just so that you have a microphone in front of you.
Okay, I can do it here. Never been a great presenter, teacher. I always liked being, working with the students and all that, so I always anyway, not important. My favorite job I've ever had in my entire life was I got to teach chess to kids. That was by far the best thing. So I've always been really interested in kind of getting right in the nitty-gritty with people. Also, kids learn chess real fast. By like week 3, they can beat you. It's amazing. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Kane. I am economist and organizer for Citizen Action of Wisconsin. I have been working on a whole host of different public policy issues. Citizen Action is a public-focused, public interest organization that does a lot of work historically on economic development and job quality, but really what we've been working on a lot over the last decade has been in the area of healthcare policy. I know that's not what we're talking about tonight, but that's how I got started at Citizen Action. I am somebody with a pre-existing healthcare condition. I almost went blind a number of years ago. I got very interested in how public policy operates and how it all works and how it really kind of comes down or touches people's lives. So for almost a decade now, I've been traveling the state of Wisconsin and working with people to try to understand how to citizens' voices from a variety of civic institutions, be it your place of work, your place of worship, your place of civic engagement, connects you to the public policy issues that matter. And a number of years ago, we started working with people who wanted to go beyond just single issues, who wanted to work with a collection of people in their geographic area to work on the whole host of concerns that touch our lives, be it tax policy, healthcare, economic development, environmental justice, all that sort of stuff. What came out of that was a collection of local dues-paying members and leaders and staff that we have around the state that we call our organizing co-op. It's a method of trying to be accountable to the interests and desires of our people on the ground. These co-ops have staff and members and are completely comprised of dues-paying members who help make the whole thing possible. So by definition, we're local and accountable to our folks. We have one that's kind of based a little bit more in the Fox Cities, Green Bay area, a little bit north. We have one in Wausau, Milwaukee, Eau Claire, the rural area outside La Crosse. And so when you have a situation like that where you work with people on you put 250 people in the room, you walk away with 251 issues. We wanted to try to figure out where there was overlap between topics that matter to people. And we were working with folks in north central Wausau, the paper towns, North Woods area. They were really concerned about the issue of economic development, job creation opportunities for a lot of these towns that didn't have the same opportunities they had generations ago. And we started to understand and do a bunch of research and found out that one of the major opportunities was in upgrading buildings. To be energy efficient, to be water and electricity and gas efficient, and then many of these things paid for themselves. And so there was a chance for us to create a good number of high-skilled jobs, HVAC, insulation, electrical, plumbing, all that sort of thing. And so we worked with the county, a couple of counties in there, to start passing ordinances to make it easier for commercial businesses to do so. We had the small businesses, we had the county leaders, we even had We even had some of the contractors and workers all kind of geared up. But one of the things we started to lack, we realized, was the financing to get it moving. That there was all this opportunity to fix up old buildings, but we didn't have the means of paying the upfront costs to make that possible. So then we started figuring out, how do we start achieving this? If there's all this opportunity to upgrade buildings, especially commercial and municipal and all that, where can we go? And so to fast forward a little bit, we started working with a number of groups to try to meet with banks and credit unions and others to urge them to say, hey, this is a great opportunity for you guys to start hiring people in things that are very safe investments. You could be upgrading thousands of buildings across the state in things that tend to pay for themselves. They countered and said, what about homes? And that's a little bit how Margie got me here, is because we've learned a fair amount about how upgrading homes not only can be done, but why it matters. And why it matters more than I originally thought, which is kind of cool. So a little bit about Citizen Action. We work on all sorts of things from wages to economic development. One example, we're working with the county about trying to bring tax dollars back into the county. We have a long history of working on different topics. But climate and economic development, the intersection, has been one we've been spending a lot of time on in these last few months, really trying to get to the bottom of that. I mentioned that one of the byproducts of our research was realizing that we needed to convince banks and credit unions. And one of the first forays into that was working with a number of community groups to urge Associated Bank to agree, when they were buying the first largest bank, buying the third largest bank, Bank Mutual, a little while ago, to make sure that that purchase was in the public interest. And they agreed to a $2.4 billion community commitment plan to reinvest in low and moderate income neighborhoods, minority neighborhoods, economic development, business loans, residential mortgages. But what's not on there, one of the things we learned, was we also convinced them to start doing a type of green mortgage, which is kind of fascinating. And I should mention that in addition to that approach, we have been interested in the question of climate change, carbon emissions, economic opportunity all over the state. In places like Milwaukee, we're trying to urge the city and the county to come together to come up with a big plan, not just on 100% renewable energy, which many municipalities across the country have done, but how does that turn into job opportunities for local residents that provide good living wages, benefits, all the rest of that. And we believe Milwaukee County may be one of the first ones that sets not just sustainable goals, but economic development goals and racial equity goals all rolled into the same kind of process, which we're pretty excited about. But even working in rural communities around urging their utility companies to be the ones to play a large role. In some of these small communities, in western Wisconsin, for example, rural electric co-ops cover multiple counties and are bigger entities than the counties in trying to decide where resources are allocated. Up here, we don't really have a lot of rural electric co-ops. I think there's one in Oconto, one in Washington Island, but for the most part, you have WPS or We Energies. You don't really get to vote on the board of directors of your utilities like they do. But in our research, we learned something fascinating. This is research done by the National Resource Defense Council, NRDC, experts nationally on climate change and all that. And I'm cutting off a whole bunch. But what is fascinating by the research here is that according to their holistic piece of how do you prevent a 2-degree increase in temperature globally, the most effective single thing you could do to cut carbon emissions was to make homes energy efficient. It had a bigger impact than making every car on the road an electric vehicle. Now, obviously, you got to touch upon everything. There's not one single thing we can do and suddenly carbon emissions on this planet are fixed. But we look at this list, see that residential energy efficiency is one of the most important things, and started asking, who is screaming this from the rooftops? Who is saying we have an opportunity to help people in every single community? There doesn't need to be yelling and screaming for state capitals or federal capitals to be doing more than they are. We could do things right here. What were the barriers? And I would also like to mention that what you're seeing under residential energy efficiency, we're talking windows, attics, air sealing, insulation. We are not talking solar panels or geothermal or even electrification. That's separate. That means even more things residential could do, which is kind of amazing. And so we tried to figure out, is there a space that we could play for making it easier for homes to be energy efficient, using renewable energy, and in this last one that doesn't get talked about as much, electrification, getting people off of gas, because you can make electricity green, you can never make gas green. And so this is the question that we have been trying to answer since this summer, and have been spending a lot of time trying to explore it. one of the byproducts started with this program with Associated Bank. Now, those numbers are actually a little low in the corner. It's actually a little lower than that now, they're dated, but they're a little lower than that now. But basically, we started asking, could banks be the ones that helped finance upgrading homes to be energy efficient, to hit that target market? We found out that Fannie Mae, something that most banks work with, one of the government-sponsored enterprises that helps back the secondary market, offered a type of program known as the Homestyle Energy Mortgage. And effectively how it works is you get to add in 15% of the value of the home on top, so long as it's spent on energy efficiency upgrades. So if you have a $200,000 home, you could put an extra 30 grand into things like solar panels, insulation, so on and so forth. It has approximately the exact same interest rate as a conventional home loan, meaning that there was no reason that banks weren't offering this to everyone else who was just generally getting a mortgage. And what we learned is that the following list were the kind of people who could do this. Anybody buying a home in Wisconsin, which our math shows is about, 56,000 people per year who use a conventional mortgage in Wisconsin, who could be using this with the exact same rates. Anyone who's paid off their home, which is getting closer to millions of people in Wisconsin. People with mortgage interest over 3.125%, which our research says is about 76,000 Wisconsinites who could benefit from refinancing today. They just never got around to it. And I should mention, I just bought my house this summer in July. Rates have gone down again. I might just refinance. That's just where things are right now. As well as residential properties of 4 or fewer units. This program could have helped all of those people, which we know is over 500,000 Wisconsinites are eligible for this and can likely immediately benefit around the state. However, up until this point, no bank was offering this. And I know that, it's statewide, rural and urban. Associated Bank is in all 72 counties. They're the biggest bank in the state of Wisconsin. But this isn't just about them. The reason I know that is because I did it. That's my house. I live in West Allis, Wisconsin. I don't pull off shorts well, but it was a hot day. What are you going to do? I live in the exact average size and average priced house in the state of Wisconsin. So mine was perfect test. And we purchased this house in July of 2019. We were able to incorporate this program into it. I did get it through Associated. What happened was after we asked them to do the program, they said, great, we're going to put a bunch of time in. Some time later, my wife and I said, well, we're about to buy a house. So we called them and said, have you done it yet? And they said, we just did. Do you want to be the first? And I said, sure, I will be the guinea pig. And that's part of why I'm familiar with some of this. This is what I've been able to do in my house. I've been able to put solar panels, windows, a heat pump electric water heater. I'll get to all that in a second. That's my energy audit that was able to be incorporated into the program, showing me exactly what I'm going to save, exactly where I'm going to save it. They had an expert energy auditor come through and look at my house. This program added $26,500 was added to my mortgage that I didn't pay for, that covered all solar panels, windows throughout the house that were low E argon double pane glass, doors, heat pump, electric hybrid water heater, insulation, and air sealing. I didn't pay for any of that up front. All of that was paid for by this program. The appraised post-value upgrade was $34,000 higher, which means that if I sell tomorrow, I will make the difference up between that and the bank gets all their money back. That's a pretty darn good investment on their part. The interest rate on my home is 3.875 over 30 years. There is almost nothing in energy efficiency lending that goes beyond 15 years. For example, Summit Credit Union is a major credit union in the Madison-Milwaukee area. Before this, their best offer was a solar energy efficiency loan at 7.5% interest to 15 years. This is twice as long and half the interest, which is kind of amazing. So how it works is it adds monthly adds monthly payments for my loan, so long as it saves on my utility bill. So yes, my monthly mortgage payments went up, but my water, gas, and electric bills went down by more. And I had to show that with the energy audit, doing all these different things. And to be honest with you, I had to do a really big deep dive into what the heck makes sense in this climate, at these utility rates, with these contractors, and all the rest of that stuff. I had to kind of go down the rabbit hole, something fierce. And as a byproduct, I've gotten kind of knowledgeable about some of this stuff. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Focus on Energy, of which all utilities for the most part are part of, they have these rebates for insulation, solar, heating, and cooling. But the bank didn't care about any of that. The bank wants to know the sticker price of everything. So Focus on Energy wrote me a check for $3,000 to do something that already paid for itself. On top of that, I actually get the $4,500 federal solar tax credit for the renewable tax credit, which unfortunately has gone down since last year, but it is still about 26% of the cost of the solar panels. Again, all to incentivize me to do something that paid for itself. That interest rate, were I not to do this program, would have been exactly the same if I just got a 30-year mortgage. The only down payment I did at all was a $350 energy audit, and silly me, I could have rolled that in, I just didn't know it at the time. So we decided to start telling the world about this and to start cataloging what upgrades make sense, what utilities contributed, and have been collecting these for a long time now. What upgrades made sense? What should the average home do? And we learned that a lot of utilities have different rules for what they'll give rebates for. Here in northeastern Wisconsin, you're pretty much reliant on WPS and We Energies, depending on where you live. You're looking at that middle one. And that number changes a little bit, but again, because the bank, for the most part, didn't care about these, we're effectively in a scenario where we could help people upgrade their home at nothing down and get paid to do it, which is kind of amazing. It's not a slam dunk for everybody, which I'll get into in a minute, but we started looking at everything from smart thermostats to low-flow plumbing to geothermal and solar, getting off of propane, not just for reasons of energy savings, but what had the biggest carbon reduction. And a lot of this got started because we were curious about natural disaster resiliency. 2019 was the wettest month in Wisconsin history, and a lot of it was people were worried about how to prevent water and flooding issues. This program can pay for that too, which is kind of amazing. So we started a program that we started to call Green and Union Homes Fellowship Program. And part of the reason for this is Citizen Action historically has worked a lot with a number of different unions, but also because we saw this as a chance to ask the question, if we need thousands of homes upgraded, who's going to train the next generation of insulators and electricians? And we thought that the chance to work with some of the training departments and hiring halls with some of the trades was a great opportunity to do this. And so the beginning of this year, we launched a fellowship training program that for a multiple week thing anywhere in Wisconsin, we will both coach you through how to upgrade your home, why it matters, how to do it, where to go, how to approach the bank, how to try to get more banks to do this, what contractors can do this, and what's a fair rate. Literally being the advocate for people throughout this process because it can be difficult. So right now we're doing about 20 to 25 fellows at a time all over the state. I don't have any in Winnebago County, but I do have some in Brown County and Wapaka County right now. And every few weeks we're going to start with another cohort of people and slowly build out. Our goal is that people not only walk away from this program understanding how to upgrade their own place, but are effectively making it easier for the next group of people by getting more contractors to want to work in residential, to get them to want to work more in energy efficiency, to help convince the banks that this is something to really double down on, maybe even start spending marketing dollars on, as well as how they can be experts in their community, because the research tells us that the best way to convince someone to get a solar panel is them seeing their neighbor with a solar panel. So if we can start doing that and building off of that social pressure, that word of mouth, we think we can do a lot of good. So one of the things is this cannot just be about carbon reduction or saving people money. It has to have an economic development connection too, or it's not going to be nearly as exciting as it should and could be. So we have been looking to build networks of contractors and tradespeople in key areas of Wisconsin who can do the work and ensure local jobs. While we've been prioritizing working with some of the union contractors because of the high level of training and the opportunity to train apprentices all over the place, we're not limiting ourselves to just them, obviously, because in many parts of Wisconsin, there just is no option for them. So we want to make sure that we work with local, high-skilled, community-minded contractors who are ready and able to do the work. We don't want people coming in from Iowa or Illinois or even beyond that, do the program and leave. We want to make sure that these are programs that help a lot of people locally, but the economy as well as the planet. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you, and then I'm happy to answer questions. I covered a bunch kind of fast, and I've also had some coffee. If you are interested in, or think you know someone who might be interested in applying for the next group of cohorts of people that we'll help with, where they will be, again, effectively paid to upgrade their home and learn how to teach other people how to do it too, that's the link that you would go to sign up and apply. And we will do about, again, 20 to 25 at a time. So If any of these apply to you, you are likely one of the 500,000 Wisconsin households that can add solar panels and green upgrades to cut your home's carbon emission at little to no cost. For the most part, it's going to be no, but for safety, we put little. Just some people may learn something about their house. For example, we learned the other day that a lot of homes need some of that basic maintenance things before they can get to this. There's asbestos in the attic. We worked with someone the other day who had a gas leak, and we're like, you got to fix that right away. But that's a good thing. So beyond the carbon impact, beyond the money-saving piece, there's the comfort impact and there's the health impact. And so that's something that we can't quantify in quite the same way, but we're learning along and helping to improve housing quality in the state. So do you own your home outright with no mortgage? Then you can benefit from this. Does your mortgage have an interest rate? We say about 3.3%, but at this point, rates just went down, so as long as it's over 3, generally you can benefit. It's not for sure, but a large number of people can. Depends on how much time you have left. Do you have a rental building with 4 or fewer units, whether it has a mortgage or not? And are you looking to buy a new home in the near future? If any of those apply to you, this program can allow you to upgrade things that pay for themselves, which again is a large number of people in the state of Wisconsin. And so this alone will not solve residential energy efficiency, residential carbon emissions. But our belief is that if we get enough people to start doing this, to really start creating momentum, we can convince more banks, real estate agents, credit unions, local, state, county, and municipal policymakers, and utility companies to really keep this ball rolling. A lot of the utilities have a requirement, a mandate to invest in energy efficiency. And I'll tell you, when we first started launching this Focus on Energy, called me into their office and grilled me for 2 hours about how to make this work better, because they were fascinated by this. This was new under the sun as far as they knew. So if any of those apply to you, we've tried to keep track of everything people can do, whether it's renewable systems, such as solar panels, geothermal, wind power, etc., whether it's weatherization, insulation, weather stripping, air sealing, storm windows, and the like, energy efficiency, heat pumps, smart thermostats, etc., plumbing, disaster recovery, Energy Star upgrades. There's many, many things that a home can do, and that's why we are trying to play this advocate role, because people can find themselves going in strange directions if they don't know if, does geothermal make sense in my downtown quarter-acre home? Probably not. But it's helpful to have someone to ask to figure that out. Here's what I could use your help with. We want to encourage more banks and credit unions to offer this program. As of right now, we have convinced 6 banks to start offering this program, but there is absolutely no reason why more can't. And so I'm not 100% sure how you all might be able to help me with this, because when Margie asked me to come to share what we've learned, I'm enthusiastic about doing so, but we're still trying to figure out the most effective way to convince more banks and credit unions. The 2 types of programs are known as the Fannie Mae Homestyle Energy or the Freddie Mac Green Choice Home Program. Majority of banks and credit unions work with one of those 2 entities. And it does not require special permission to offer. They are safe investments. In fact, it's been shown that homes that are energy efficient are far less likely to go into default or foreclosure. And banks are actually offered an incentive by Fannie or Freddie to keep the interest rates for this low. So they have every reason to start offering this. It's been our experience that the reason they haven't is that no one's ever asked them. They have the ability to right now. In fact, that was the experience we had with Adams Community Bank just 2 weeks ago, where we sat down with their mortgage director and said, would you guys consider doing this? And he's like, oh yeah, I've heard of these. This is easy. We'll start next month. And apparently that's all it took. However, we've also been learning that you can't just cold call a bank and just say, hey, you guys should start doing something that you're not, because they're like, who the heck are you? So we've also been asking some of our fellows to go to their banks and credit unions and ask for their bank to consider doing this. But using Adams Community Bank as an example, that bank agreed to a meeting and agreed to do this because someone from, not Adams, Oregon. That's because the Village of Oregon in Dane County, one of their city councilors asked for the meeting and sat down because they thought it was in the public interest of the Village of Oregon so that more of their residents could afford to do that. I would love to figure out some version of that in Oshkosh. And I don't know if the best way to do that is to ask for a meeting, ask for a letter, or just, do you know somebody who works in any of these institutions? But the key is right now, There is one bank that's based in Northeast Wisconsin on that list. There should be a heck of a lot more than that. So if you are connected to a local bank or credit union, I encourage you to ask them to look into Homestyle Energy or Green Choice program, and or introduce them to me. And I will help connect them to both my personal experience of how it worked and both why they should and how they could benefit from doing so. And to help with that, that's my contact information. So again, help us help people fight climate change at home. And by all means, if you have any questions, concerns, ideas, or even if you want to go through this program, feel free to call or email anytime. I think I got that in under 30 minutes. How'd I do, Margie?
You did fantastic,
Wonderful.
Kevin. Thank you so much. Does anybody have questions about any of this wonderful stuff?
Oh, and I do have a copy of the Fannie Mae Homestyle Energy Mortgage description in case you wanted to learn a little bit more about it as you talk to either people in the banking, credit union, or even mortgage lending world. I have one for everybody. Sorry, probably should hand you more than that. There we
I'll
are.
just hand them down this way. Thank you.
So this is something individuals can do, it just has to be publicized. Does the city have a role to play in this, or mainly just?
Our belief is that the city's power of convening, of encouraging institutions to pay attention to things that they may not necessarily have been aware of up to this point is probably one of the most effective things they can do on this. Obviously, there's other things that the city can be doing on planning and spending and building suggestions and all that. But when it comes to this, yes, it's something that the individuals can do, but you guys can help that by encouraging more financial institutions to make this common.
When I first heard about this program, I was rather excited about it because it sounded really, really cool to me. And so I called Kevin and said, explain this to me. So this is my second time hearing it. And of course, it's still kind of like, I don't have one of those accounting type heads, you know, it just doesn't do that. Mine would be more like colorful little flowers or something. I don't know. But, but anyway, so I wanted him to come and explain this to all of us so that we can share this with our community, as much to give him a platform to get this information out in the Oshkosh area. Eventually, when this recording is posted to YouTube or whatever. And then to see if any of us had additional questions for him, and then see how what we could do to help promote it in this area. So that was my rationale behind having him come. I don't know if anybody here's in the market for a new home this year or anything like that, but I bet we all know somebody who is, and just sharing this information and that it's out there.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
You have to get the banks to buy into the program.
Well, Associated Bank already is, right? For
Yeah,
local-
all those banks I listed say that they will invest in any county in Wisconsin. Associated's the only one that's really based, has local branches in Winnebago County.
Okay.
So we would love to get others to, it's just easier sometimes for people to either refinance or buy when they can meet the staff and actually go into the office, has been our take on it. And we want to make sure that there's more than one bank per county that's physically there that does this.
Sure.
So as an example, though, if my home was paid off and I wanted to and say it's a $200,000 home, what I understood was that then I could probably get a loan through Associated Bank up to, say, $32,000 and use that to upgrade for whatever, as long as I provide the bank with the information on how I'm using that money. It ends up being paid only through my reduction in my bills, and it ultimately costs me nothing. There's something in there I'm missing, so I think you should explain that.
No, it's a great question. Energy efficiency upgrades, for the most part, spread over a long enough time period, will pay for themselves. The hard part is that not everyone is prepared for a payback period that'll go 10, let alone 30 years. And that's why more people haven't purchased solar panels. Because when you buy a solar panel out of pocket, you generally have to wait anywhere from 10 to sometimes 20 years for it to pay for itself. The payback period they refer to it as. This program allows folks to have the bank pay the upfront cost. I'll get to how that works in a second. such that the monthly payments on it are often equal to or less than the monthly savings. And our goal is the longer term it is and the lower interest rate, it really allows people who otherwise are locked out of energy efficiency because they don't have 20 grand to spend at a drop of a hat, can suddenly do this. And for my own experience, I'm seeing what that looks like. I'm paying less per month for something that increases the value of my home. And it also doesn't lock me in. Again, if I were to buy a solar panel today, I'd have to wait 10 to whatever it was years to see that payback. Often. Sometimes it's less than that. But if I don't wait that long, if I suddenly take a job in another state, I'm out that investment. The building is better, and that's good for carbon's sake. But in this program, again, the value of my house and the value of anyone's house, your house as well, would increase by, as a requirement, as much as they put in or more. Otherwise, they won't do it. And so what that means is every month you're expected to see savings on average. Obviously, less sunny months, not as good. But you're not locked in if you want to move to Florida next year, Arizona, or whatever. You can sell it, make it back. You're not out that money. You don't have to wait as long. The way that the program works is whether you're buying or refinancing or just generally curious and want to do it because you don't have any lien on your home at all, mortgage or otherwise. You go to the contractors, you get the quotes for the amount of work that you want done, up to that 15% of the value of your home. You go to the bank, and the bank says, great, we're going to create an escrow account that you and they have access to, equal to the total amount of the quotes from the contractors. The bank puts that money in an escrow account, and then they will pay for the work that's done. They know what's going to be done, who's going to do it, and the contractors have 6 months to do it, because not everyone likes putting solar panels up in February. But it's also not you have to hurry up and get this done kind of thing. And so that was kind of the experience we had, and we think more people, once we make this simpler for them, will be useful. But we still think it's helpful to have an advocate, which is kind of why we're playing this role, because this is not in the bank's experience to know what energy upgrades pay for themselves. That's not what they do. As green as Associated Bank's logo is, they're not quite there. So that's what we're going to try to do, is help navigate people through under what circumstances does it make sense, who can do this work, what kind of interest rates make sense, and what upgrades should I be considering. And then on the other side, they're going beyond solar. It might be solar and low flow toilets or insulation and windows, so that holistically they can do as much as they can to cut their own home's carbon emissions and utility bills. And so we're trying to make it easy for people.
And if only everybody would do this, right?
To be fair, the reason you guys haven't heard about this is we just reached an agreement with these guys in like September. So this was not that long ago. I did it on my own house as the test. It was the first they ever did. We got done in like August, and then we agreed on the details at the beginning of September. So this is like pretty darn new. So don't be worried if you haven't heard about this before.
Anybody else have any questions?
Sounds amazing.
It does. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate you coming and sharing this, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool, huh? Yeah. Okay, moving on down our agenda. This should all go kind of quickly, this part of it. The Environmental Leadership Award. I did get a contact because I've had email this week, so I'll go with that. I think she may have reached you by phone eventually also. But our contact at the Rotary, who we're partnering with for this Environmental Leadership Award, did notify me on February 1st that we had no additional, that we have our nomination for this year and that we're ready to proceed with that nomination. And so we need to have one more meeting, and I know Michelle and I and Lurton had been the ones on this group, and they're not here tonight, but I'll try to let them know that we're ready to go ahead with that. So we'll have it ready for the State of the City in March. I think it's March 8th this year.
Ninth, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, probably the 8th is Sunday. So we should have that ready, which will be awesome. And then we'll start on the next year, of course. We have, well, we have the student, moving on, unless you had questions about the environmental ward. Or if anybody else wants to volunteer, feel free to jump in anytime. The UW Oshkosh Senior Seminar, student projects, we've got them, or we had them.
Yep, we did receive them, and I had our IT staff post them on the city website basically under Sustainable Oshkosh. I believe they're under resources on there. This afternoon I was out there and I saw that it looked like the city website was up and running, so you should be able to go out there and find the 4 reports from fall of 2019. All 4 of them are out there.
And I assume they're large enough that it would not be convenient to email them to us.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, actually, I think Jim Feldman, the professor, did email them to me, so I can go back and look. They actually might not be that big in terms of file size.
I seem to think they were like 36 pages each or somewhere around there.
Yeah, the page length
So-
is there, but I think they might be compressed file size-wise, so they may be able to be emailed. I'll check, because I think he did email them to me.
Yeah, and even if we receive them separately, sometimes that's an easier way for us to keep them and look at them.
Yep. Otherwise, I'll send you the.
They were, yeah, they were PDFs.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking if we had a PDF of it, we could access it any time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
specifically the plastic pledge one, as that's on our goals now.
Yes,
But
exactly.
yeah, they are PDFs on the website, so even if you get the link, you should be able to download them from there. And
I don't know why, Stephen, I'm a little nervous about links this week. Is there a chance they could be emailed to us?
yeah,
Check on that,
Yeah.
please. I do want to, and I know Vic's definitely wanting to start working on the one right away, so. Okay, any questions about the student reports that we haven't looked at yet? Okay, no. Moving on to the electric vehicle project. Actually, Pat, we have Eric's name on here, but you also
Oh,
received
you-
some,
Well, the charger, so I sent it to you and I sent it to Eric.
he did tell me he'd received it when he called to tell me he
And what
wasn't
I
able
don't
to
know is,
come.
is that the kind of information you wanted? So I had an inventory, I used Plug Charge and then the Energy, the government has a website that shows locations of public chargers, and so I just copied stuff off of there.
That created a really awesome chart, and it does. It
But
tells
I don't know,
whether
is
the
that what
level 1, 2, or 3.
Is that the kind of information you wanted? Okay, I didn't print it out or anything to bring with me because I didn't know.
Yeah, and I knew that he
agenda.
wasn't going to be here,
But,
so I didn't worry
Yeah,
about it.
what I haven't done is like called each place and see if those are still up and running and, that kind of thing. I drove by a Quick Trip one and found one of them, but, and then Eric thought more of the Quick Trips had them. He was gonna go looking to see, but those are the ones that showed up on like PlugShare, and I don't know if they showed up on PlugShare or the Energy website put up by the government.
Well, we have a
so-
basis to start with anyway, and
And
Stephen
do you
has the
have
copy of
old
the.
inventory? Is it any different than what it used to be? There was another inventory done a few years ago, or?
No, theoretically, there was another inventory done that Robert and I worked on, but we just never really got that all written down or anything.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to like?
We don't have something to
Do you want
compare
me
it.
to confirm that like either call or go and look at each place and see that they're up and running?
I'd suggest calling so you don't have to
Calling,
waste
yeah.
gas driving around.
And then you want only ones that are public ones.
Yes.
Right, okay, so like Oshkosh Truck has one on 29th Street, but it's behind their gate, is what I understand from what I read online. Would that be accurate? They have a charger on 29th, on is 29th their factory or their plant or something? It showed up on,
I know we have some in our parking lots, but they wouldn't be.
oh, okay, they wouldn't be
access.
public, yeah, they wouldn't be public access, yeah, so they're behind where, people go and work for workers. You're mainly
Yeah.
interested in ones that are available to the public in general.
For our purposes, yeah.
Yeah,
It needs to
yeah.
be ones that anyone
Yeah.
could access.
Yeah, and there are a lot of level 1 ones, which are basically just outlets. But they have a sign on them, apparently, like the Quick Trip has a sign that says electric vehicle charger. And they would work for, like, somebody who worked at Quick Trip. It wouldn't make sense for somebody stopping at the store, but somebody could go in and plug in for the day while they're there, and they'd have, enough charging to get, if they drove 30 miles home, it would get them home. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if it's
yeah.
free, it's free electricity, I guess, you know, so,
Well, we have a good start on it. We have the inventory that we just need to
uh-huh.
work with, and
Yep.
and Eric did ask that we put this back on for next month too, so he'd like to.
And what would be done with the information, kind of thing? Yeah,
Well, once we gather it, we'll know what we can do with it, right?
yeah, it's pretty well gathered, I think, except for maybe calling and confirming, and then if Eric can find anything else, but.
I think our ultimate goal is to encourage the city to start transitioning as much as possible to electric vehicles where they make sense.
Uh-huh,
And to also be able to inform the public where, if they have an electric vehicle, they can charge it.
right, and it actually is more useful for people traveling.
Traveling through, yes,
Yeah,
but
it's more useful for people traveling through, because you're gonna plug in at home.
true. If you live in Oshkosh, you will be probably.
Right, so it'd be
But
like our
if somebody
interest is-
contacted the city right now and said, I'm traveling through, is there a place I can
Oh.
recharge? Who's going to answer that question? We don't know.
You give them the plug share. You give them the plug share website and
So do you think this just doesn't need to be done, Pat? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, people who buy an electric car, the people who sell it to them will give them the websites where you go and look.
We
you know.
can't encourage the city to create more places to
Yeah,
charge if we don't have the information about
right.
how
Well,
few
okay,
we
so the
have.
goal would be ultimately to try to get the city to encourage installation of more chargers. That's kind of the idea, okay. And not just for their employees or for their own vehicles, but
No, it should be
Yeah.
for public access.
for public access. And then where you'd want to do it would be motels and gas stations near the highway for people coming through is what you
A
want.
lot of cities have them, like on their main street, where they want people to shop there, but it's usually a system where you put in a credit card and you pay for your charge.
Right, I'm saying, but if I was to drive a car downtown, I would have charged it the night before at home. You know, it's not a concern.
Pat, I'm not talking about Oshkosh people.
Right, no, but I'm saying if you were gonna do it in Oshkosh, the usefulness is for people making long trips, okay? There's no problem, my husband driving to work in his Volt and driving back home. The problem would be if we wanna drive to Michigan,
Right.
okay? Where do
Or
we
if you
charge
want
it?
to make your downtown a destination for shopping, maybe when you
For
put
people
in
from
some
out of
additional
town. Right, yeah.
charging stations,
Tourism.
people
Right.
might be more interested
For
in that.
tourism, okay, I suppose.
I think there's a lot of opportunities there.
Right, okay, so but it'd be getting the city to install chargers or trying to encourage store owners to do?
Sure,
You know,
both, everything, all of the above.
Okay, or putting in chargers for employees who work at the city, I don't know if that would make sense, you know,
Well,
but-
they'd have to pay for it too, otherwise it'd be our tax dollar at work.
right, but,
Okay, so
okay, I'm
we'll
just
we'll
trying
put
to
that back
figure
on
out
for
what
next
the
month.
point, what you were trying to get at and what you were gonna do with the information, that's what I was trying to figure out.
I know.
But, you know, that's just
Did
trying
we
to
get
figure out.
there?
Because, well, kind of, yeah. I mean, I didn't know if what I was gathering was what you needed to know or not, you know, and that's what I
It
was trying to
looked
figure
really
out.
good, and it was a
Yeah.
very impressive chart too, by the
It
way.
was just a
Nice job.
spreadsheet.
Okay, Menominee Shoreland Restoration. Once again, Michelle is not able to be with us this evening. She did ask that we put that on our March agenda. She very much hopes to be here in March so that she can get this rolling, I think were her exact words. So there is no update on that. Social media.
So post this month, the theme is how to be sustainable at work. So look forward to those. I also had an idea about in the future spending a month on getting to know your board. So I do have a little bio kind of typed up that I would like all of you to fill out. When everything's up and running, that'll be emailed to you, and then if you could just email it back through the whole SAB email address, and then it'll get back to me, and we'll go from there. And that'll be a future theme as well for a month. If anyone, of course, has any ideas, feel free to send me an email. I always love input and ideas.
Of course.
Thanks.
I sent you something, didn't I?
I believe so.
I'm so proud of myself. Okay, agenda items for the future meetings. Obviously, the electric vehicle will stay on there. Menominee Shoreland. There will be other things as we go through our goals tonight, I'm sure, that we'll decide to include, probably some of that senior seminar information. Anybody have anything else that they want to see on an upcoming meeting?
I don't know if it's the right place or you need more information, but the MREA group buy, solar group buy, I emailed you about that. I have the flyer on. There's Solarize program where a city or a municipality would sponsor a group buy for solar.
Oh,
I have the flyer on it,
yeah, you did send me that.
you know, and I don't know if you want just general information about it to see if the board's interested in pursuing that.
Okay, let me
You know.
take a look at it and we'll see about putting it
Okay.
on next month's agenda.
Yeah.
And Pat, please remind me in like 3 weeks, okay? 2 weeks.
About what? About putting that on the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
it can't hurt, it might help.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, then, our next meeting will be on Monday, March 2nd, here in this very room. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn to our continuing goal-setting workshop.
So moved.
A second, anyone?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's do that.